How will the decision to hire someone be made? Will it be made solely by you? Will it be a bunch of people involved, coaches involved? Will it be someone who has to maintain a lot of the staff? How will you make that decision?
Well, I mean, obviously we're going to involve other people. I'm going to make a lot of calls. I already have made a lot of calls. I've talked to a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I'll have a recommendation that I'll share with the president. What was the second part of the question? Okay.
We know how loyal Chip Kelly is. Did he put in a plug for anybody on his way out the door like Mark Helfrich?
No, he didn't put any specific plug. I mean, he was very clear that he thinks we have the best staff in college football, and that there were multiple qualified candidates within the staff, but he didn't put in a specific plug.
Has he done that in the past?
No.
Warren.
Rob, to the extent that you can you talk about the buyout process? We've heard terms or numbers of $3.5 million. Do you expect to hear from the Eagles? How does that work?
I mean, there is a buyout clause in the contract, and I don't know whether it'll be managed by the Eagles or by the coach. I mean, our contract is with the coach, and the obligation rests with the coach. So, it's a very specific term. So, it's really on the coach. Again, the clause is very specific that it's paid over the term of the remaining term of the contract. Yeah, so if you get the contract, it lays it out. I don't think there's any leader. Obviously, as we've talked about, the two previous successions that you've talked about, as well as the continuity on the staff and the number of veterans that we've had that have contributed to the growth and the solid foundation that we sit on today. Of course, we're going to have internal candidates, but we don't have a leader in the clubhouse.
Rob, you mentioned that you have a unique situation here. Everything's unique, the football program, the athletic department. Do you risk, to some extent, sort of blowing that up if you go out and hire someone who doesn't know Mark Helfrich, doesn't know Nick Aliotti, those kinds of things? Well, I mean, hey, there's risk in all of this, and we're going to take all the information we can to make the best decision that we can. And our focus is making sure that we continue on the path that we've been, which is conference championships and BCS bowl games. So, we'll weigh a lot of factors. And again, continuity will matter, style of play will matter, past success will matter. All those things will weigh in. Jerry.
So basically, what I'm hearing is, despite what has been reported in the last couple of weeks about a succession plan, that you're not just going through the motions, that you are going to be searching for someone. There is no candidate who has...
We will be interviewing multiple candidates, yes.
Believe everything you read in the media.
One other question. Follow up.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Obviously, this would, just as a possible criteria for choosing someone in-house, if you did, would you be up to making a poll of the current players just to see what their feeling is on who they would like? I know that's not a...
Obviously, the input of players matters, but will we be running a poll? No, we're not looking for a popularity vote.
You're any concern about the recruiting process here, 3 weeks away from recruiting day, and what your message is to recruits out there? And I assume coaches are contacting those guys.
Yeah, the timing is less than ideal, no doubt. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're in a critical period. So, but our assistant coaches are on the road; they'll remain on the road, and the recruiting process will continue. That's why we want to move as quickly as possible to find the right leader. But we're not going to sacrifice the future of the program, just on a specific timeline.
In the back, Joe.
You said last week when we talked, Helfrich you'd been contacted by 2 other colleges that are interested in Mark as head coach. Do you feel like if you don't make a move on him fast, you may lose him?
Well, both of those jobs are filled, so that's a possibility, always a possibility. Again, we're not going to be driven by timeline. We're going to be thorough. We're going to find the right person, the right fit for Oregon football.
You mentioned that, even Dave mentioned you can't believe everything that you see in the media. Even last time when you were here, you kind of called us out a little bit about rumors and stuff like that. Do you feel now that you were misled at all a little bit throughout this whole process?
No, I do not feel misled at all. I think it's, again, as I mentioned last time, I think the process is going exactly as is. And, we had a candid conversation this morning. I think he continued to, after the decision, he continued to wrestle with it. And at the end of the day, over the next 10 days, He wanted the challenge. He felt like this might be the right opportunity, and this might be the last chance.
I guess that being said, what is your message to Oregon fans who did think that he was going to be back?
My message, Oregon fans are some of the most loyal and passionate in all of sports, and we're fortunate to have them. They've been here a very, very long time, and I'm confident, because I've heard from a number of them already, that they're very proud of where we are, and they're committed to where we're going in the future, and they trust that we'll find the right leader.
Eric Elker. When was the last time you've heard from the NCAA about possible sanctions, and how much do you envision having to talk about that with potential candidates?
Again, I think we've said, feels like a million times, we have pledged our full commitment to the process, which means that we can't talk about the process, and we'll continue to do that. I don't think it'll be a significant conversation with candidates.
Michael, do you feel, because you were not a part of the process previously, that this is your chance now to make probably the biggest hire you'll ever make, and possibly take the reins over something where somebody maybe else had the reins for a little while?
Yeah, no, I don't feel that way at all. I mean, this is about the organization. This is not about me. Oregon football is important to the athletic department and to the university. It plays a big role in our success, our visibility. And again, I'm not going to be out there doing this all alone. I'm going to get a lot of input, a lot of opinions. But of course, it's a key hire, and of course, we take it very seriously.
Warren Williams.
Rob, you talked about this morning that you had a conference call with some of the assistant coaches. Can you shed some insight on what that conversation was like, what their reaction was, maybe from Coach Aliotti, which coaches you spoke to?
Yeah, well, we set up a conference call because they're all over the country, and I felt the need to make sure that we had an open dialogue. I talked to all the assistants the weekend that we got back from the Fiesta Bowl as Chip was doing the interviews in Phoenix, and if I learned anything last year, it was that I didn't communicate well enough with the assistant coaches. They felt out of the loop. So I made a pledge at that point to them and to myself that I would keep them in the loop as best I could, knowing that some information is confidential. So we set up a conference call mid-morning, mostly so I could tell them what I knew. By the time we got to it, I think much of what I knew had already been reported. And then I wanted to make sure that I could answer any of their questions. Again, there have been an awful lot of people who've committed an awful lot to the success of this program, and they're critical, and this impacts them. This is, everybody always focuses on one person, but this has an impact on a lot of people, a lot of staff. I also met with a support staff this afternoon that works closely with football. Again, just to make sure that we get their questions answered and they know exactly what's happening.
I got a question, but if I could follow up on that real quick. I guess I'm surprised. I would think you would expect that the head coach would be keeping his assistants in the loop as to what his future is because it impacts them so closely. So is that what you learned last year, that's not what happens?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. All I know is that I needed to take a more active role in communicating with what I knew. I do know that after he met with the team, Chip fully intended to call all of them.
So had he spoken to them by the time you...
I don't know the answer to that. I didn't ask that question.
If I get my original question then. Your confidence that the NCAA issues won't be a factor, and I realize you can't talk about the process, but I think that's eye-opening. I mean, does that stem from the fact that you just think a coach just won't be scared off by that no matter the situation, or is that an indication of your level of confidence that the process will play itself out?
No, I think we do things the right way here. I think most people in the industry absolutely understand that, and I just have confidence that industry-wide people know what's going on here. And people are doing it the right way.
For current players who may have been shocked about the news, still have additional questions, are there any resources that you brought in from the outside to kind of explain everything that's going on, or what that process, say a player wants to come and talk about what's going on with the status of the program?
Well, we have a number of staff who are still here, both on the coaching staff, on the administrative support staff, and I visited with the players, laid out for them what I've shared with you today, and in fact told them I'm available anytime anybody has any input or any questions. So I will remain available to them and the staff, and they have a number of other support staff around who can help them.
Rob, are you worried at all about the perception that Chip leaving now with the NCAA thing on the horizon, that's like kind of staying one step ahead of the law, so to speak?
No, I don't think that was a factor in his decision.
When we were here the previous Monday, things seemed to be very hard and fast that Chip was staying. Now that he is announcing that he is leaving, is there any doubt in your mind that he could change his mind again, or are you under the impression that things are?
There's no doubt in my mind. He's the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.